There are two glaring problems haunting the Buffalo Bills right now, and both live on the edges of the field. The boundaries. The sidelines. That's where this team is getting exposed, week after week, on both offense and defense. And unless something changes soon, these issues won't magically fix themselves. Let's start with the offensive side. The Bills' boundary receivers, particularly rookie Keon Coleman, have been struggling to make an impact. The size, the talent, the potential, it's all there on paper. But between the lines, it hasn't translated. Coleman didn't even see the field on Buffalo's opening drive against the Patriots. That alone says a lot. The coaching staff clearly doesn't trust him enough in early game situations. Maybe it was part of a heavier run package or a blocking setup, but even then, if your opponent can predict your game plan just by who's on the field, you're in trouble. Once Coleman got in the mix, the results were underwhelming. Josh Allen had plenty of time to throw, but his outside targets couldn't separate. Coleman, despite being 6 feet 4 inches and built for contested catches, got completely shut down by Marcus Jones, a corner listed at just 5 feet 8 inches. That's a mismatch Buffalo should have dominated, but instead, it was a reminder that size means nothing without physicality and precision. Coleman had one solid moment, a tough sideline grab against Carlton Davis for about 10 yards, but that's not nearly enough from a player expected to be a red zone weapon. Too often, he's getting bullied at the catch point, a trend that goes back to the Miami game in Week 3 when he dropped a crucial second down pass under pressure. These aren't minor growing pains anymore. The Bills' boundary receivers are becoming a liability, forcing Allen to lean more heavily on the middle of the field, and that's where defenses are starting to key in. Until Buffalo finds consistency on the outside, their offense will remain predictable and easier to contain. And on the other side of the ball, the same story unfolds. The boundary corners are losing too many one-on-one matchups, leaving the defense vulnerable to big plays. It's a cycle that's draining momentum and costing games. If the Bills want to make a serious postseason push, this is where it starts, tightening the edges, building trust in the young talent, and finally winning those battles along the sidelines. Because until that happens, Buffalo's biggest weakness won't be at quarterback or play calling, it'll be at the very boundaries that define their game. It's time to face it, the Buffalo Bills can't keep relying on Keon Coleman the way they have. The potential is exciting, sure, but potential doesn't win games. Production does. And right now, Coleman simply isn't delivering. Take that end zone play against the Patriots, the acrobatic catch that didn't count. Yes, it looked impressive, but the truth is, he was completely locked down by Christian Gonzalez from the start of the route. Josh Allen had to force it up and out of bounds just to give him a shot. Great effort, but no results. That's been the story for Coleman lately, flashes of talent, followed by frustration. The numbers tell the real story, not a single 50-yard game since Week 1. For a player many expected to break out, that's not just disappointing, it's alarming. Every game since has brought the same pattern, quiet performances, missed chances, and a lack of rhythm with Allen. Whether it's the Jets game where Buffalo barely threw, or the Saints and Dolphins matchups that felt disjointed, Coleman has struggled to assert himself as a reliable outside threat. That drop against Miami late in the fourth quarter, the one that killed a promising drive, still stings. Plays like that are the difference between winning ugly and losing painfully. The breakout season Bills fans hoped for just hasn't materialized. And the problem doesn't stop there. On the other boundary, Josh Palmer has been equally invisible. 2 catches for 36 yards, one in the first quarter that went for about 20, and then another late in the game where he simply fell down. That's not what Buffalo paid for. A $36 million contract for a supposed route-running technician, yet through 5 weeks, his impact has been negligible. Palmer was brought in to be the separator, the receiver who could win clean off the line and give Allen a trustworthy option on the outside. But maybe Los Angeles knew something Buffalo didn't. He's barely seeing snaps, and when he does, it's clear the coaching staff doesn't trust him fully. Meanwhile, the Bills keep prioritizing receivers who can block, something neither Coleman nor Palmer has shown much ability to do. That's a major problem for a team that prides itself on versatility and balance. If Buffalo doesn't get more consistency and toughness from its boundary receivers, it could derail the entire offense. Because no matter how good Josh Allen is, no quarterback can carry a team when the weapons outside keep disappearing. At this stage, it's impossible to ignore, the Bills' outside receivers simply aren't getting the job done. Josh Palmer, in his limited snap count, hasn't been able to make a real impact. He's not creating separation, not winning downfield, and when your quarterback has all the time in the world to throw, that's a huge problem. Buffalo's offensive line has been phenomenal this season, arguably one of the best in the NFL. Josh Allen often stands in the pocket for what feels like forever. But what good is elite protection if no one can break free downfield? That's the tragic irony here, the Bills have built a fortress up front, yet the receivers can't capitalize on it. And before anyone tries to pin this on Allen, let's get one thing straight, this isn't a quarterback issue. Allen has proven he can make tight window throws better than almost anyone in the league. During his 2024 MVP campaign, he led the NFL in yardage thrown into tight coverage. The man thrives under pressure. The problem is, no quarterback can throw to receivers who simply aren't getting open. The real issue lies in the lack of separation and depth at wide receiver. Against New England, Buffalo didn't even activate Elijah Moore, who was a healthy scratch. That decision looks questionable in hindsight, especially considering how stagnant the outside passing attack has been. The rest of the depth chart doesn't inspire much confidence either. Glick has done his part, consistent, solid, but not explosive. Beyond that, there's not much. If things continue trending this way, General Manager Brandon Beane might have no choice but to explore trade options before the deadline. The Bills need a true difference maker on the outside, someone who can win one-on-one, stretch defenses, and give Allen the weapon he deserves. Names like Jerry Jeudy could surface, but the reality is complicated. Finding the right fit mid-season is never easy, and Buffalo doesn't want to overpay for a short-term fix. Still, if they want to keep their championship window open, help at wide receiver can't wait. Because no matter how good this roster is elsewhere, it's clear, until the Bills solve their boundary receiver crisis, their offense will never reach its full potential. The Buffalo Bills wide receiver situation looks bleak, but the bad news doesn't stop there. The problems stretch across the field, and what's happening on defense might be even more concerning. Let's start with the offense for a moment. Sure, there's been speculation about players like Jerry Jeudy possibly being trade targets, but that's far from realistic. Denver just drafted a rookie quarterback, and they'll want to keep as much talent around him as possible. So, Buffalo can't count on that kind of reinforcement. The truth is, this roster, as it stands, lacks explosiveness and reliability at wide receiver. But if that's the storm on one horizon, there's another brewing on defense. And this one hits even harder. Veteran cornerback Tre'Davious White, once the backbone of Buffalo's secondary, no longer looks like the same player. It's a tough reality, but it's one the Bills have to face. Against the Patriots, Stefon Diggs absolutely torched him, double-digit catches, over 140 yards, and complete control of the matchup. White couldn't get his hands on a single pass breakup. He was beaten at the line, beaten at the top of routes, and beaten deep. Over and over again. It's painful to say, but Tre'Davious White no longer looks like a starting caliber corner in today's NFL. Whether it's age, injury, or confidence, something's missing, and the Bills are paying the price. And the situation gets worse when you look at the depth chart. Dorian Strong was just placed on injured reserve with a neck injury, a serious setback. Thoughts and prayers go out to him, but from a football standpoint, that leaves Buffalo dangerously thin at cornerback. Behind Christian Benford, there's no reliable reinforcement ready to step up. The Bills do have a name waiting in the wings, Max Harrison, a promising young corner, but he's still on injured reserve and hasn't played a single professional snap. Expecting him to come in cold and stabilize this defense would be unrealistic. So, now Buffalo's front office is at a crossroads. Do they pursue help at wide receiver or cornerback? Because with limited cap space, possibly even in the negative, they likely can't fix both. And if they make the wrong choice, it could cost them their shot at a Super Bowl. This isn't panic. It's reality. The Bills' weaknesses at boundary receiver and boundary corner are glaring. They've been exposed. And unless Brandon Beane finds a way to address at least one of them before the trade deadline, Buffalo's dreams of lifting the Lombardi Trophy may once again fade into frustration. The window is open, but barely. And the clock in Buffalo is ticking. As if the on-field struggles weren't enough, the Buffalo Bills are now dealing with a fresh wave of injury concerns coming out of Week 5. Several key players were banged up during the loss to the Patriots, and the updates from Orchard Park are a mix of relief and worry. Let's start with some good news. Connor McGovern. The offensive lineman left the game briefly after what appeared to be a hand issue. He was seen with some bleeding on his middle finger knuckle and was officially listed as questionable to return. But in true Warrior fashion, McGovern didn't miss a single snap. Trainers got the bleeding under control, and he powered through the rest of the game. As of now, it doesn't look like a long-term concern, though he may appear on the injury report this week for precautionary reasons. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for Matt Milano. This one hurts, literally and figuratively. Milano, who's already been battling a pectoral injury, went down again in the first half and did not return. He was active early, racking up 6 tackles before re-aggravating that same right side injury. On film, you can see it happen clearly, 2 plays in a row trying to bring down quarterback Drake May. The first hit looked mild, but on the second, Milano's right arm twisted awkwardly as he completed the tackle. He immediately came up favoring that shoulder area, and that was the end of his night. Buffalo's medical staff wasn't taking any chances this time. Even with Dorian Williams already out, they shut Milano down quickly. It's another cautious move for a player who's been through a tough stretch of injuries in recent years. The linebacker depth continues to be tested, but one bright spot was Shaq Thompson, who stepped up with a strong performance in Milano's absence. His awareness and tackling helped stabilize a defense that was already stretched thin. Still, there's no replacing Milano's instincts, leadership, and speed in the middle of that defense. Heading into Week 6, this is a storyline worth watching closely. If Milano misses extended time again, Buffalo's defense could be in serious trouble, especially considering their issues on the boundaries and the thin depth at cornerback. For now, all Bills fans can do is hope that the medical reports this week bring more optimism than setbacks. Because one thing is clear, with the way this roster is structured, losing leaders like Matt Milano isn't something this team can afford. The Bills escaped Week 5 with a win, but not without a few lingering concerns on the injury front. Multiple players came out of the Patriots game banged up, and a few situations could have ripple effects heading into Week 6. Starting with Dalton Kincaid, the talented young tight end appeared to tweak his wrist during a catch-and-run play. After delivering a stiff arm, he was seen flicking and shaking his wrist afterward, not a great sign, though he remained in the game. Expect him to pop up on the injury report this week. That said, Kincaid continues to be a bright spot in Buffalo's offense. With 6 receptions for 108 yards, he looked every bit like the breakout star fans have been waiting for. Against New England's man-heavy defense, the Bills' wideout struggled to create consistent separation. Kincaid, on the other hand, found space, won routes, and gave Josh Allen a trustworthy outlet all afternoon. At this point, he's emerging as Buffalo's most reliable receiving weapon, and one the offense can't afford to lose. As for Dion Dawkins, the veteran left tackle was spotted post-game wearing a brace on his left wrist and hand. It's unclear how serious the issue is, but any injury to Dawkins would be significant. He's been quietly anchoring a line that kept Josh Allen clean throughout the matchup. Buffalo's protection looked strong all day, giving Allen the time he needed, but that efficiency starts with Dawkins up front. Overall, it's clear that the Bills left Foxborough with more bruises than they'd like. From Kincaid to Dawkins, the offense has key players nursing minor injuries that could affect practice rotations this week. The big picture takeaway. The Bills' offense is showing flashes, but depth and durability remain ongoing tests as this team pushes deeper into the season. When the Bills' offense needed a spark, Stefon Diggs reminded everyone why he's still one of the most dangerous receivers in the game. When Buffalo's passing attack stalled, Diggs took over, setting the tone, dictating matchups, and flat-out dominating in crunch time. His Week 5 performance wasn't just about numbers, it was about attitude. When the offense needed someone to seize control, Diggs answered. That same leadership will be vital as Buffalo regroups for the next stretch of the season. The team is hurting, especially on the defensive side, but reinforcements are on the horizon. The return of Ed Oliver could be the difference maker this unit needs. Oliver's disruptive presence in the trenches has been missed, not just for his ability to collapse pockets, but for how he turns pressures into drive-killing sacks and energizes the entire front. Buffalo's defensive depth has been tested, with injuries and suspensions creating instability at key spots. The missed tackles, inconsistent containment, and lack of interior push all trace back to missing personnel. But Oliver's return, combined with the gradual lifting of defensive suspensions, could restore the identity that made this defense feared early in the season. Still, problems linger in the secondary and among the wide receiver group. Both position groups have flash talent but continue to battle inconsistency and lack of separation. It's becoming clearer each week that if the Bills want to be a complete team by mid-season, these are the areas that demand attention, whether that means schematic adjustments or personnel moves. As Week 6 approaches, Buffalo turns its focus to Atlanta, a team that thrives on physical play and ball control. The Bills' resilience will be tested yet again, both mentally and physically. The offense must rediscover rhythm beyond Josh Allen and Diggs, while the defense has to find its bite again with fresh reinforcements returning. Buffalo's story this season isn't one of perfection, it's about response. Every setback, every injury, every missed tackle becomes part of a bigger test of identity. If Ed Oliver returns with the fire he's known for, and if the Bills can rally around Diggs' leadership, this team still has everything it needs to reassert itself among the AFC's elite. For now, the mission is clear: get healthy, get sharper, and get back to the brand of football that made Buffalo dangerous. The window is still wide open, the Bills just need to walk through it.